last item is from the August board meeting. I updated the commissioners that Senate Bill 3850 was signed into law by Governor Murphy. This permits a board of elections to extend the distance within electioneering prohibited from 100 to 200 feet at the discretion of the Board of Elections during early voting and election day, as well as drop box locations. So the reason why I kind of included in that report is the board received a request from Piscataway, which is attached to extend an electioneering limit to 200 feet for polling places, drop box, and early voting within Piscataway. So those are the remaining. That's the last item that I have for the board.
Okay, any questions? We need to discuss the change to 200 feet, right?
We don't have to unless we want to.
That's at the purview of the commissioners if you wish to kind of address that now or later time and place, or not at all.
So, Tom, from a timing standpoint, like, when do they need to know this by?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say if you're addressing just this specific, it would be as soon as possible. Again, we would need to notify the clerk, poll workers. Again, if it was just for Piscataway, it would be training materials. If it was across the county, we would have to adjust training materials. Training starts at the end of the month regarding for poll workers. So again, yeah, I mean, the sooner the better if it's something that you would like to consider for this upcoming election.
This will affect all towns?
Again, the law says it's up to the discretion of the board. The request in front of you, it just addresses Piscataway. In terms of the law, it really doesn't say whether it has to be all or none, or again at the request of the municipality. So it's up to the discretion of the board how you would want to handle that, if you want to handle it.
Has everybody read the letter from Piscataway?
Yeah.
Yes.
Don?
I'm not inclined
Sure.
to. I'm not inclined to make any change. The Piscataway clerk didn't say a reason why she wanted it, and I'm a little uneasy. I think people should be allowed to campaign, and if you make it 200 feet, there are going to be many polling places where they may have to be around the block, around the corner, so it essentially limits any right to campaign. And I don't think this is a partisan issue because, quite frankly, over the years, I think more Democrats have been pushed back past 100 feet than Republicans. But it makes no difference. I don't think we should do it.
Any further comments?
I mean, I'm a little torn on the subject. I do agree with Commissioner Katz that there are going to be several polling locations around the way that it doesn't work at. I don't think it should be a one-size-fits-all solution. However, I do kind of feel like if a municipal clerk is requesting something no different if they were requesting a change in polling location or a change in a drop-box location, we would at least take it under consideration and discuss it. And most often we would take a vote on it. So if we wanted to do that, I wouldn't be opposed to having that discussion today and deciding one way or the other how we want to at least respond to the correspondence that we got, right? As opposed to, but I wouldn't be in favor of any kind of rule, going forward or outside of the confines of this letter.
I think, were you done?
Yes, sir.
I think considering the law, we certainly should consider it. I'm guided by the fact that it is requested by the clerk, who we expect to kind of have a pulse on what's necessary in the town. And we've certainly taken that position before on other things. I suspect this won't be our last time having to consider this in fact, but I think it might be worth seeing how this plays out. So for me, I since they're asking, and it's not, the entirety of every municipality in the county at this time, I would say I'd be in favor of applying it in this instance.
Could we reach out to the municipal clerks and see how they feel about it?
On the whole, for all the clerks?
The whole thing?
Yeah, we could.
Or counties?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
Well, that was
Get a
my,
poll.
if I may, I'm
Commissioner
sorry, I
Ross?
apologize, that was going to be my question,
Yeah.
that every clerk automatically received
Different, yeah.
this change? So the option was there at the same time for all the clerks across the county? No?
Commissioner Katz?
Yeah. First of all, I'm just going to repeat, this letter doesn't say why she wants a change. It just says, this says you can do it, please do it, or we'd like to do it. It doesn't say why, whether there was a problem or anything else. There's nothing on it. I don't think the clerks have received anything necessarily. This is a law change giving us the discretion to make the change. So there wasn't anything that went to the clerks to say, do you want to change?
Oh, there was a law change, but the clerks got no information?
There's lots of law changes the clerks don't get information on. They're not, nobody sent that, it's just sent to them.
Commissioner Jallo?
Not to offer a rebuttal just for the sport of it, but I believe we've allowed in many instances the clerk's discretion to play in without much of a rationale or reason, simply because it was asked. In this instance, considering the law, I do see us, having to consider this in the future. They're the only entity that asked for it now, which in my opinion allows us to kind of keep it controlled and monitor it and see how this plays out. Not to sound like it's some sort of experiment or anything, but it doesn't require us to have to, train the county at large. What are we, less than 60 days out of the election? If one entity is asking for it,
Just do one. Piscataway, try it out.
if they're the only ones asking for it at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
To Commissioner Katz's point, it does say that in the letter, which is not certainly evidentiary in any way, issues we have seen in the past. I don't know, it would be interesting to know if there are any documented incidents. I certainly have anecdotally heard of instances in Piscataway. I don't know about the general election, but let's just say I've heard of instances in Piscataway during election processes where people get a little feisty and perhaps, violate that 100-foot limit. But I would be in favor of, this is asking for, if I'm reading this correctly, for a change for this upcoming November election. It's one town. I would be interested to see how it plays out. I think that post-election, it's something certainly we could reach out to other clerks about if we think it's something that worked out well. And sort of take it from there as we go forward. But I don't want to start messing with everybody and trying to, cause an uproar inside of 60 days. But if this particular town wants to try it, I wouldn't be opposed to a motion.
And just one more thing, I would be curious what our rationale, as you said, it's discretionary, what our rationale would be to say no. Just as much as our to toe the line, since there is a change in the law. I would probably be, as I think was insinuated, a bit suspicious maybe if it was in the primary, but as opposed to the general, but I would make that motion, Chairman, to make a motion to accept.
Motion.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Second, roll call.
No, we have discussion now,
Oh, right.
after we did that. I have discussion. There is plenty of a rationale not to do it. It's the question of democracy. If you want to allow people to campaign, there's a certain zone up to the polling place where you don't allow that, but after that, they can campaign while they wish, or whatever they wish to do. And I don't see any particular reason to change it from 100 feet to 200 feet, because I know in any number of places, I've been to a lot of these places over the years, 200 feet essentially eliminates the possibility of campaigning.
In Piscataway?
I have not been to all the polling places in Piscataway. I've been to most of the polling places.
Again, I've always felt that 100 feet was an arbitrary number to begin with.
We're all arbitrary.
Exactly, that's my point. 200 is no more arbitrary than 100, depending on the location. I haven't, just like you said, visited all the polling places in Piscataway, but I know of plenty of polling places that I've been to where 200 wouldn't make that much of a difference than 100, other than allowing people to go into the polling place without being potentially accosted by someone. I mean, I see in many instances where 200 feet is just as good as 100. I don't know. It comes down to, for me, it is permitted now by legislation. So I almost wonder, how long or how much discretion would be arbitrary if we said no to people going forward.
Commissioner Schneider, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, if we don't know of a specific location in Piscataway that it's going to be a problem, I think I would be willing to take the word of the clerk, at least for one election. It's certainly within our discretion to grant or not grant this going forward. So I don't think we're risking much to allow for this to take place in this election.
One more thing, I would say, we're at that point, if we do it in one town and not the other towns, we're risking confusion in terms of whether it's 100 feet here or 200 feet there, et cetera. So when we vote, I'm going to be voting against the change.
Any further
Well,
comment?
I just have a question for those of you who are more familiar with this new law. Does that mean that they have to request the 200 feet space, or any polling area can now be, campaigning can be included past that 200?
Yeah, explain the law.
I haven't memorized the law, but as far as I know, it just says it gives the Board of Elections the discretion to change the distance from 100 feet to 200.
Interesting, okay.
I don't think it outlines a process or procedure.
Right.
So I assume that this procedure is just as good as any an entity has, unless.
I'm asking obviously because now I will vote for the allowance of the 200, so that would be Piscataway, but then if I'm walking around election day, no other town that I might visit will be allowed that, is what you're telling me.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Unless, of course, between now and then they request the same.
Well,
No?
well, yes, but I would just say, that would be with our approval, and understand the next time we meet is October 9th, which is inside of 30 days from the election. We'd probably be a little bit more hesitant to change anything at that point, which is why I think to the administrator's perspective, we should probably make a decision on this today, as we're, any closer to the election than this is probably a little too close to make that change from a training perspective and everything else.
I have a question. If we change it today, what happens next year, the next election? They grandfathered in it, or do we have the option of changing it if we find it's?
I guess it depends on how
I'm going to ask
We
a
can
question
motion.
about the motion. Is the motion to change it for this election only, and then just?
Since I'm in motion, I would say temporary, because I'd like to see what occurs. If it doesn't work, I'd like to reserve the right to say, look, we got called too many times, we had too many problems, there was,
Just for Piscataway?
yes.
Yes.
Because they're the only ones who are
I
at.
think it's a good guinea pig, let's start with that. It's a big town.
And Commissioner Jala, I would also say that I believe the statute, regardless of what decision you made today, the statute puts the authority in this board, so we could always change our minds later on. This board could always make a new decision at any point in time. And any new makeup of this board can make a new decision.
Can I ask for clarification, because again, in the letter, it talked about drop boxes, polling locations.
Yeah.
Is it polling locations, drop boxes, is early voting part of that? Because Piscataway has an early voting site, or is it just polling locations, drop? So at least I know how to advise staff how to
Oh, that
deal with
that wasn't clear in the law, obviously.
Again,
That was our discretion.
It is your discretion.
How many ballot drop boxes
She
are we
requested
Two,
It's only two.
at the library and at the municipal building.
Are they both polling locations as well?
The municipal building is not the library.
The library is an early voting site.
No, they're two, not where the drop box is. The drop box is at
So it's not the
Westergaard.
library.
Yeah, it's a set different library.
Yeah, they are.
Westergaard, the library?
Yes, my motion is to basically temporarily, not permanently, provide it to 200 feet based on her request for all that was requested by the clerk. Just for Piscataway.
Second?
I'll second
There
it.
wasn't a second for, yes. Yes.
Are you going to open it to the public on this?
Later.
After you decide? Well, that's ridiculous.
Is the,
I'd like to be heard on this.
That's the board's job.
motion?
Judge Boss Piscataway.
I defer.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on this.
That would be you, Chair.
But
It's up
it's
to you,
our
Chair.
decision, isn't it?
Okay, Commissioners, we have public comment?
It's your discretion.
It's our discretion. We do.
It's our discretion to allow this,
Okay.
Chair's discretion.
the chair's discretion.
Thank you, Chair. Charlie Cradaville, Brunswick. Is this on the agenda?
No.
Okay, so you have an item that was added to the agenda the last minute. And
Not the last minute.
can I ask, did the board solicit any feedback from either of the major political parties on this? Did you get buy-in from Dems or Republicans, or is this just a single letter from a single municipal official?
Something I don't know.
Certainly, if you were changing a polling place, you would have at least asked both parties, why not have that same practice for this?
Because it's on each, they can say no.
Space, that's all.
What, I haven't heard a good reason why you wouldn't at least ask both the parties.
If you don't mind, Chair, I'm sorry, so just so we're clear, you certainly have the ability to speak on the issue. We are not obligated to answer questions about whatever it is you want to know, so please.
Yeah, just asking for the logic, the rationale behind your decision, because the law gives you the power, not clerks or anybody else. And I'm concerned to see how much of a rush you're in, right? This wasn't even advertised on your agenda. So people in Piscataway might not even know you're trying to do this. And, you know, one person has asked for it, the municipal clerk. Why does the clerk's opinion matter? What do they have to do with the outside of the polling place and electioneering?
Well, Charlie, I can't speak for every town, but I can speak for my town. The clerk handles these type of problems. And yes,
Okay.
she'll go out with her measuring and measure
Oh, wow.
whether it's 100 feet or whatever.
We usually have the cops do it in New Brunswick, but Mr. Snyder,
Yes, sir.
he mentioned a brief little passage that said something like, due to prior incidents or something. Don't you think it would be wise to look into that a little bit and ask for a little more information before you make this decision to do this experiment? Or is that good enough? That's a good enough reason to just say, there've been incidents in the past.
But it is our decision.
Right, well, the decision hasn't been made yet, and I'm trying to persuade you not to do it, and I think there's some good reasons not to. Do you know who sponsored the bill before it became a law? The Senate version was sponsored by...
I do
I
not.
believe it is,
Do you know?
No.
including the previous year, I think it's
Yeah.
Senator, at least in this Senate was Senator Smith. I don't know if it's...
Bob Smith, former mayor of Piscataway. So what really happened here, right? What really happened here is that the Piscataway machine lost some elections, right? For the first time, the Democrats lost in the primary. The machine Democrats lost to the progressive Democrats. And I was out there 100 feet away. And you know, full disclosure, I was persuading people to vote for the progressive candidates, and we were successful. 2 of the 3 council candidates won. And now Bob Smith puts in a bill, it becomes a law, and then the clerk of Piscataway sends you a letter saying, we want to make it so you got to be 200 feet away. And that's what's really going on here. And I don't want people to go along with this and think that they're doing a good thing or respecting the clerk's opinion. What you're doing is suppressing democracy. This would make it harder for people to campaign to the voters who are showing up on election day. Mr. Jallo said something like, this procedure is just as good as any other. No, it's not. Wouldn't it be better if you had...
That's not what I said, but I'll address you afterwards. I'll help you clarify what I said.
Please, I hope you will. And I'm just saying, a proper process would involve the political parties, the political leaders, and you'd advertise it on your agenda in case residents care enough to want to come to your meeting. But it wasn't put on an agenda, it's being snuck in and pushed through with a very flimsy basis. And you also said, you know, you're sure that there's places where 200 feet is as good as 100 feet. Can you name one polling place in Piscataway where that's the case?
Not off the top of my head, no. I can't name Piscataway, but I can think of tons of places where I myself have campaigned where 200 feet is just as good.
Okay, well, I would think that this board...
But I will address as soon as you finish.
Please. And I'm about to wrap up. I'll just say that I sincerely hope that this board would never make this kind of a change without actually looking at each polling place and looking at a map and seeing what the changes you're going to do are, instead of wholesale picking an entire town to be a guinea pig, as you say, and experiment on them and see how it works out and just kind of see how many complaints you get about it. That's not an effective way to defend democracy, and we need everybody on this board to vote against it. You need to do more homework before you make these kinds of decisions. This, again, was not even advertised, clearly not researched before right now, and it would be a mistake to make a change for the general election or any election without actually doing the work, doing the research, getting out the maps and seeing what how those changes will affect campaigning at polling sites. And so I urge you to please vote no to this ridiculous idea.
Can I say can I say 2 words? Okay. Alright, so, if memory serves me right, I believe that location, 100 feet is in a parking lot, if I recall.
Which location?
Piscataway. I think there's 100 feet is in a parking lot, and so what happens when I went to go visit it as a challenger, their campaign people are there and they're blocking spaces where voters are supposed to go to park to try to vote. So, I mean, myself, I remember being, I believe it was there, I will check my notes. I do believe it needs to be asked to the clerk when she says problems. I mean, I'm just giving you my intake. I believe that was the site. And I remember when I stepped out of my car, you know, I remember trying to find a parking space. It was difficult. I had to go around all these people. They had their chairs out, they had benches out, but if it had to be 200 feet, that's the opposite. I don't see how anyone could do it because the way the parking lot was and then there was a street, there isn't enough 200 feet for, you know, anything like to put a campaign sign. But 100 feet was in the parking lot where you drove in, and it was very difficult. They were taking up parking spaces to vote.
May I ask?
Campaigns.
There's many polling
I'm
places
talking
in
the early
Piscataway.
voting, the early voting.
Okay.
The early voting, I'm sorry, the early voting. All right, I can tell you that. Because I don't know where the other ones are, but I believe that was the issue. I mean, it might be. I'm just saying for me, I just wanted to add that to it. But I do believe it has to be asked by the town clerk.
It has to be what? I didn't hear the end.
I do believe that maybe the town clerk should elaborate on what she's talking about what issue she had. But in my opinion, when I was there, and I remember that even the Board of Election Workers were coming out and constantly had to keep telling them to go back and you can't come in with the electioneering material, but you couldn't turn down to try to get a parking space. You had to go like this to get a parking space because they were there camped out with tables and water and
Well,
chairs.
of course, if they're obstructing the parking lot, they could be removed, whether they were
I know,
100
but
feet or 200 feet
people
or
were, they
300
would,
feet.
it's true,
But
but they
it
would,
happens.
that's what I'm just trying to say.
If I can,
Commissioner Cal.
yeah.
That's it.
I appreciate all the comments. I really do. Certainly something to think about. I did not see this as anything nefarious. I stand by my comment that we, in the time that I've been on this board, we've been asked by clerks to make changes, and we haven't given them the third degree on why these changes are needed. We've often deferred to them. From someone who's, and I think many of the people in this room have been involved in tons of elections, we know that the clerk is involved heavily in those elections. You know, my brother's a clerk in a municipality, and you know, he tells me all the stories of him being involved in everything that he has to do as a clerk. So when I see, you know, a clerk saying, hey, there's a reason why this needs to be changed, I didn't think it was anything nefarious. I think it's a necessary change. I have seen, just as was pointed out by one of the speakers here, where there are problems with campaigning within the 100 feet. And so a law that gives discretion to the board to consider 200 feet doesn't seem crazy to me, doesn't seem nefarious to me. It seems like a way to make elections perhaps more orderly, to not be in the parking lot. I assume and imagine that there's still more feet you know, that exists in the world, so people can maybe campaign across the street or campaign, you know, within earshot of folks. That's not something that I was thinking, you know, would be, you know, potentially problematic in that way. Also, discretion is an interesting word because it doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, right? Discretion can never be arbitrary, right? You just can't do whatever you want. You have to have some basis not to. If a law says that we can go to 200 feet and we get a request from who I view as at least one of the officials in the town with the standing to ask such a question or ask such a request, I think that that's fair to act upon. In fact, I think it's arbitrary to simply say no. This has been our past practice when we know, right, and let's be honest, when we know that there has been problems with the 100 feet. In fact, I would say that the majority of the issues that we respond to on election day have to do with the interactions that take place within the 100 feet, or people not subscribing to the 100 feet and they're at 88 or they're at 50. And so those are the things that are going through my mind when I say, let's see how this works. Not some nefarious response or rush through or feedback or anything of that kind.
Commissioner Katz?
Yeah, two things. Virtually, I'm not aware of a single request from a municipal clerk that related to anything other than polling locations, suggested change of polling rooms and polling locations, etc. That, as far as I know, that was it. And our practice, which I requested 20 years ago, is that we get the feedback for those things, even, except not room changes, we get the feedback from both party chairs before we do anything. But that's a different story. And the issue, yes, is there problems with people trying to campaign within 100 feet? Sure, but that's a question of enforcement, not a question of change. If we have it within 200 feet, then we're going to have problems of people trying to campaign within the 200 feet. So that's not, I don't believe that that's germane to the issue.
I'd like to make a comment. Shola Soprani, Milltown. I don't believe the clerk should be disallowed from requesting a change. However, I do believe that I would ask the clerk to articulate, just as a matter of common sense. I feel like there's a lot of discussion, but there's just a basic fact is missing, is the fact, why is she requesting it? I think if she would articulate that, I think it would answer a lot of questions.
Further comment?
I was just going to add on to it. That's what I was trying to say. That being there, it's a very small parking lot. I mean, I'm visualizing it now. It's not, and where they were was, interfering with people trying to come in to vote, and that's what I was trying to say. Now, I don't know that if that's the reason for sure. It would be nice for the town clerk to elaborate on that, but I'm just trying to tell you my experience there, and I felt that small parking lot. That's all I'm trying to say.
Commissioner Katz?
I've been to that early voting site in Piscataway,
Yeah.
and I must say, I've never measured the distance of the parking lot. But if the
Okay.
parking lot is less than, the parking lot itself is less than 200 feet from the entrance to the building, then there is no practical way for anyone to campaign anywhere.
You're right.
Because it's a major road onto the other side, so it would eliminate it.
You're correct. You're correct. That's why I was saying I was doing both sides.
I know, but
Any further discussion? Okay. Mr. making the motion,
Yes.
can you repeat it?
with all of the supposition words in there.
Temporarily, or just for this election, to comply with the request of the township clerk in Piscataway.
Sounds good.
Your second.
Sure.
Maria?
Chairman Engel,
No.
Commissioner Jello,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
No,
Commissioner Moskowitz,
Yes.
Commissioner Benjavenga,
No.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
motion fails.
Motion what?
The motion fails. A tie vote is a failure.
3-3.
What happened?